Hello and welcome to Unlock with Sony CES 2022 edition. I'm your host, Coy Jandreau. We're coming to you live from Sony Pictures Entertainment Studios in Culver City, California, where the latest in Sony entertainment technologies all converge in one incredible place. Unlock with Sony is a very special program that's meant to spark curiosity for the latest and greatest in developing technology. Led by some of the most advanced creators in the field, Unlock is designed to inspire, energize, and help you discover new, never-before-seen entertainment. We're unlocking what's possible, and that involves you. So please share your thoughts and questions in the comment section on YouTube or use the hashtag UnlockWithSony on Twitter, and we may just answer your question here tonight. Now we have a fantastic pair of creators in the visual field joining us for today's session, so let's begin. This is Unlock with Sony. Once again, welcome to Unlock with Sony CES 2022 edition. Today's panel will focus on how the virtual space is expanding creativity in the visual field. So please welcome VTuber, streamer, and animator for the technician CodeMiko, Youna, and podcaster and actor Jeff Cannata. Thanks so much for being here today, guys.
Happy to be here.
It's awesome being here. Thank you.
I'm so excited. Now, Youna, what's something you're working on today in the virtual production space?
Well, as you know, I am a VTuber, a solo VTuber as CodeMiko, so I want to make her some more friends because she's kind of lonely in the space. So that's what's up next. I'm going to make more characters for her to interact with.
Creation itself.
Yeah.
How about you, Jeff?
I do a lot of shows, but the biggest that is using the virtual space is a tabletop role-playing game that I do called the Dungeon Run. We do a virtual fantasy world that we're creating in real time.
So virtual Dungeons and Dragons is the ultimate turducken of nerddom, so I'm very excited to talk about that. We're going to talk about that and so much more, but first, Sony is on the forefront of virtual production and virtual reality, which translates to some truly amazing things. So let's take a look at their latest innovations at work. It is incredible to see how this technology is able to bring an actor into the virtual space in real time. Now, what was going through each of your heads as they pulled out and you saw what was virtual and what was tangible?
I mean, that was pretty active. I mean, active, epic. I totally forgot English, but were the bats real?
You know, I'll never know, and I don't want to know. I think that's the point, is do we know what is real?
Well, it's truly the limits now are only your imagination, right? Yeah. You can create, even budget doesn't seem to be as much of a limitation as it used to be. You can really create any kind of piece of art that you can imagine, and I think these tools are accessible. You don't even have to be a technician like you used to. I mean, it used to be such a technical skill.
Yeah.
These tools are accessible, they're coming down in cost, so you're able to make stuff like that in our homes.
I love how quickly we've gone from, is that piece of something with a black outline around it gonna be real, or are the bats real in real time? It's insane. Now we're gonna learn a little more about how Sony's technology made that very clip possible.
Sony takes great pride in being a creative entertainment company. In fact, we commit ourselves to filling the world with emotion through the power of creativity and technology. Making movies is one of the most exciting aspects of our business, and we're constantly looking for new ways to improve the filmmaking process, leveraging our technology while yielding better creative outcomes. Virtual production is an important way we are providing end-to-end tools, from capture to display, that will enable filmmakers and storytellers an innovative way to capture stories anywhere, from exotic locales to uncharted territories and to fantastical places created in our imaginations. Back in 2020, we showcased the virtual production technology for the first time here at CES as a proof of concept. Since then, the technology has been used for the production of various Hollywood movies and TV shows. The technology is also being deployed in Tokyo by Sony PCL, a Sony Group company. They are applying the technology in films, music videos, and other productions. We continue to ask ourselves, how can filmmakers and creators use technology to transport audiences to new, imagined realities and increase efficiencies in the production process? Creators have always pursued the answer to this question. Today, there is a revolution that is maximizing the capabilities of modern rendering engines, cameras, direct view LED displays, and other advanced technologies. With virtual production, environments and assets are identified, captured, and/or created first. These beautiful environments are interacted with on set and shot on camera. Ultimately, the captured images are fully rendered in real time, bringing the creator's vision to life to help them emotionally move the world. Think of this as the best of early production capabilities, where everything is on set, and the most ambitious way to bring together actors and real-world places or completely computer-generated environments.
I'm excited about what the next level, what's next beyond virtual production, because I think, when we're talking about the metaverse and VR and a lot of the other products that start to come along, a lot of what we're doing in virtual production is completely applicable to that, but being used in a different way.
We were just talking about those incredible real-time reactions. So actually being on a motorcycle and then everything happening in real time behind you, all of those different things. Like, what do you think that'd be like on the day, Youna?
Honestly, it's actually kind of unreal how insane those sets look. It's like seamlessly, like, it really feels like you're there. Yeah. And it's just LED lights, it's shining on this actual scene. The actors look seamless onto the scene because it's the same lighting, right? So I don't know, that looks amazing. It's like you're living in a virtual world now. I don't know, it's insane.
Yeah, we lived through a whole bunch of movies. I think back to the Star Wars prequels, and it was a bunch of, a couple of actors sitting in a big green space with ping pong balls. And I think audiences kind of can sense when the actors aren't really seeing things. Yeah. And now here we are. We have this kind of new technology that allows the same possibility with virtual environments and visual effects, but it allows the actual production to be more placed in a real place. The actors can react to real things. It just seems like a level up in that kind of fidelity, which is pretty cool.
And the evolution from just an eye line being enough to an actual experience, because your body reacts too. There's so much more than just like where you're looking. Like you physically feeling like you're on a motorcycle and those things, that's gonna affect your performance, which is truly incredible. And as we just saw, TV and movie productions are increasingly turning to cutting edge 3D technology to change the way they make content. Technologies such as volumetric capturing and virtual production are not only revolutionizing how that content is created, they're changing how it's being used in the very creative process itself. Sony's proprietary technology is able to take real-world locations and project them onto LED screens where actors can interact with those spaces as if they are real. It's like having a set and a storyboard in real time. Now, Jeff and Youna, what does this mean for the entertainment world overall? We're going to start with you, Jeff.
Well, for the entertainment world overall, I think it really unlocks, to use the name of the thing, it unlocks the imagination, right? It allows these fantasy concepts, these audiences want more. They want more. I mean, you're seeing television, you look at stuff like the Mandalorian, where they're able to create these incredibly complex and impossible scenarios, worlds, and do it in real time, fast, more effectively, cheaper, one would expect as well. I think it's really going to change the way all films are made, not just fantasy and sci-fi, but all films.
And I have to imagine with this technology, you wouldn't need to worry about sets as much, or changing sets, or waiting for the magic hour, or like daylight to change. And how do you think that'll affect productions overall?
I mean, as he was saying, that it's just, the production just gets faster and faster. And I think our audience is now really spoiled at how much media they get, because of how quickly we can make things. And I mean, we don't need sets anymore. It's just like you can have one big gigantic LED stage and you can be wherever you want to be. And films are going to become cheaper, and I think it will just the rise of indie developers will happen as well, and there'll be more individual creators that's just gonna come into the space, and you'll just have so much content. You know, we already have so much content on YouTube and Twitch, but you're gonna even have more content, which is great.
I agree, and I also love the idea that the diversity of content means you can have more worlds you visit in the case of fantasy or those things, but it doesn't cost us the performances. Like we said with the actors, I think getting more believability and versatility, like that's such a double win with this kind of technology. And the most exciting thing about this type of digital space is its overall potential. It's not limited to a single medium, but can and will impact films, gaming, music, sports, entertainment, and so much more. Now, Youna, can you explain how you're currently using virtual reality?
Yeah, so all of the things that I have are off the shelf. I have a VTuber called CodeMiko. She has very high-end motion capture fidelity, and I use Exensuit. And the facial tracking is used through a phone with a death cam, and it's all hyped through Unreal Engine. And this is all like off the shelf. Any indie sole developer can actually do this at home and create their own show that garners thousands of fans. And it's just what a world we live in today. You know, we don't have to be in a big budget studio to be able to make our own creative visions.
It's literally a dream scenario from even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like what you just described is so unreal, pun intended, keeping with these puns. Now, as a creator, how will you personally engage with virtual space entertainment, and what kind of change do you want to create in that digital space?
Well, currently right now I work with a live chats, and they kind of provide the content in a way because I do real-time VTubing on Twitch, and it's like I kind of created this game type of function where the audience can interact directly with my VTuber. And so it kind of creates this weird hybrid of a medium where you have a live streaming show and then a game on top of it that the live audience can play with while you're creating the show. And I think it's just kind of a new type of medium, and indie developers are going to hopefully take something like that and just create new forms of entertainment for people.
So does that allow them to kind of be the producers and the writers while you're the director and the actor? So they can shape the narrative and then you're able to add elements in real time?
Kind of like that, except they're more like, it's still a one, you know, I'm still controlling the narrative of everything, but they can be kind of like the side characters that come along with the adventure.
Fascinating. And all that's happening live?
Yeah, all real time. You know, you have to make content fast. Honestly, in this time and age, you have to make content that second and feed it to your audience.
Is there a different sense of freedom in that digital space because of that? Because you're so immersed?
Yes, absolutely. Just like how in live action, you can't do the same things as you can do in animation. With animation, you can go wild. You can make crazy stories. Like, look at the Pixar stories. They're so much more colorful and vibrant than like live action stories, right? And you can do the same thing with VTubing and just being in a virtual space. You can make, you know, wild things happen. I mean, we have my show has fart jokes, and because you know fart jokes are universal. Everyone finds them funny, but you know she can go on a fart rocket and be shot onto space, and it's so ridiculous.
I think my 5-year-old may have written.
Yeah, I was gonna say this side writing thing you're talking about. Yeah, and things like the Mitchells versus the Machines and Spider-Verse, where we're evolving the styles of animation, also in conjunction with all this evolution. Now to go back the other way. You have been around in this interactive digital space for some time. Since like Web 1, you had a call-in number of interactivity with the digital era. How has this been, seeing this exponentially grow?
Well, yeah, I mean, in 2007, we launched a show called The Totally Rad Show. And I don't quote me that we were the first, but we were certainly one of the first shows, a video web show that used virtual backgrounds. And at that time, there was no software to remove you from a green screen. We had to invent it. I remember going to Home Depot and buying PVC pipe and getting some green felt and literally hanging it up in the background because no one sold green screens for your house.
Yeah.
No one had off-the-shelf software that allowed you to rotoscope yourself off of the green screen. So we had to come up with all that stuff. And we were doing virtual backgrounds and virtual sets very, very primitively from today's standards, from what we just saw from what Sony is offering.
Which is not that long of in the scale of human existence.
It doesn't feel long to me. doesn't feel very long to me. But yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary how far we've progressed.
Yeah.
It is.
And I imagine, like, we were talking analog to digital, the call-in analog,
Yeah.
and then using it digitally. What was the idea, since that was such an early internet experience, what was the idea to go like, this is the future, this is where we're going to take this connectivity?
Well, I think being on the internet and having a direct contact with your audience, I mean, what Youna was talking about, it fosters interaction, and I think that's what the audience wants. I mean, there are passive forms of entertainment that are very enjoyable. Films, books. It's enjoyable to have a passive form of entertainment where you're being told a story. But what we're seeing with the internet and what is more and more possible now with being inside the experience with VR and AR is that interactivity and influencing the story. That's what we're doing on my show, The Dungeon Run, as well, is letting the audience influence the story and be part of that storytelling.
And where did you think interactivity would be at this point? Like you got a Webby in 07. That's right after MySpace, man. Like that is fresh internet.
You are making me feel old.
Where did you think, from that perspective, like looking ahead 15 years from then, did you think this would be where we're at, where we have real-time interactivity like Youna experiences?
I mean, you always kind of sensed that's where it was heading, but it is incredible how far we've come and how fast it feels. You know, it is ubiquitous, it is accessible, it's, you know, an individual. I mean, the advent of Twitch and streaming services and the fact that those are mainstream entertainment to an entire generation of people, where it feels like that is what they expect. They expect to just be part of the experience instead of having the experience just fed to them in one direction. And I think it always felt like that's where we were going, but I never thought we'd be there that quickly or that ubiquitously.
Where do you both, starting with you, Youna, feel like this changing landscape in the digital space is going to lead things in entertainment specifically?
Well, I think that more indie developers will pop up.
Yeah.
And I think we're just going to get more selections of content that we want to choose. There's going to be a lot of niche content and things that we can watch that cater directly to us. And I'm just really excited to see where the future holds, because we are moving at such a fast pace with our tech. I mean, just 5 years ago, VTubing was like not even a thing that people thought was going to be possible, right? And now everybody's a virtual avatar. So I'm just really excited for, you know, the indie developer space to grow and see what kind of creative visions that we have from there, and see this technology just blow up. And gosh, I don't know. I think we'll be living in the Matrix in like 5 years.
Yeah.
Or are we now?
Are we now? You know.
I keep saying, you know, I think I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I keep saying, I think they're going to expect, they're just going to think it's normal to be in their entertainment. They're going to sit down to watch a movie and go, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
You want to be Star Wars? I'll be Princess Leia, you be Luke Skywalker. And they will be in the movie. It will be their friends, themselves. They'll hold up a phone, rotate it a couple of times, and then the story will star them. And that's going to be normal.
So you think that's the direct change for the future of the movie-going audience, is them plugging themselves in, is what you see as the next wave?
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be in parallel with traditional storytelling. You'll still want to see, you know, your favorite movie stars on the screen, but I think there will certainly be a way to just be in the movie. Let's watch it again, except this time you be that character, I'll be this character, and the technology will be so instantaneous and so simple and so accessible that it'll be normal.
With what we've discussed with the call-in number Web 1 to real-time actually making your avatar fart rocket, and also what we've just seen with the Sony technology, having all those lighting effects and the background being tangible for the actors, all that in real time, do you think we're going to hit a point where you don't think we'll be able to predict 5 years from now? Because we were saying like 15 years, we kind of saw the trajectory, but since it's so exponential, do you feel like we're going to hit a threshold where it's like, well, it's a ride, let's see. Like, do you think
We're there.
Yeah?
Hey, don't you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know what's funny? When you were talking about how kids are going to star in their own movies and stuff, kids are already trying to do that with being on YouTube and Twitch, and everybody wants to be there, you know, have their own story and broadcast it out to the world. So we're already kind of seeing that trend, and absolutely, I think that's good. Like, starring in your own Star Wars movie,
Yeah.
like every kid wants to do.
We're all the main characters in their own story, and the technology's keeping up with that fact. And I want to get into volumetric capturing, which for those of you that don't know, it's a technology that enables you to capture a 3-dimensional space, such as a location or a performance, in real time. and that captured object then gets digitized and transferred to different places like the web or to mobile, and it's able to be viewed in 3D. Now this, for a production, this could mean an entire set, an entire performance, all sorts of things. So starting with you, Jeff, when you look back at iconic American films, do you think they would feel different with virtual productions? Do you think they'd look different to the everyday audience with this volumetric capturing or virtual productions?
Well, I think a lot of it would change, and I'm feeling different, I think, is a tricky question, right? Because we talked about how the Star Wars films or other examples where it just doesn't feel authentic, and we've transitioned beyond that, and this kind of technology, I think, is going to reduce that uncanny valley. I was just having a conversation with a good friend of mine who's a Hollywood director, and he was bringing up a movie like The Revenant, which it's a few years old now, but a Leonardo DiCaprio movie that takes place a lot during magic hour, right? And you were talking to Youna about the times when you shoot something being malleable and not a limitation. And they were moving all around the world and chasing magic hour, that sunset period, to get those shots. And now you're going to be able to have, it's already happened, this ability to shoot at magic hour all day long. You'll just be able to set up and for 8 hours shoot at one particular time of day because you're shooting virtually. And it's going to, I think, appear to the audience like they did what The Revenant did, which is they chased the sun, Now, performance-wise, we talked about volumetric capturing, being able to not just capture a space, but also a performance in real time. That's very similar to your experience happening now. Do you think the average moviegoer, once it's to that scale, will be able to tell the difference in the performance?
I think there's definitely something very organic when it's live and real time, and there's definitely a difference when you're sitting and watching the movie, and then you're watching something live and actually influencing the content. And so, yeah, I would definitely say yes to that question. Yeah.
Do you think in the next wave of technology with what you're doing, it's going to be more accessible? You keep mentioning like indie creators and all these folks. Do you think we're going to see a wave of the next generations, big five directors from any decade, but we're going to see it in the more digital space?
Yes, absolutely. Everything is actually available now if you want to create your own VTuber avatar or create your own story. Unreal Engine is completely free. Anybody can just pick it up and learn it themselves. Also, I think we have motion capture suits today, and they're getting cheaper and cheaper, but we also have VR tracking that you can actually make as good as motion capture if you use control rigging inside Unreal Engine. But not only that, webcam tracking is getting better and better. So I really think, the solutions of creating your own movie or show is getting cheaper, more widely available, and very accessible.
And what specific technologies have you used in the virtual and digital space that you'd recommend, and how do you see those evolving?
Oh man, I don't know if I recommend my setup because it is a little bit pricey, but I would say for the starters, definitely Perception Neuron is a great mocap suit, but just pick up a Vive. They have great trackers that you can actually do full motion capture tracking in, and a lot of people have VR these days. Use that with Unreal Engine control rigging, and you can actually get a motion capture system that is similar, very close as a full-on mocap suit.
That's incredible, because it wasn't like we see with these actors, the mocap dots are required, or we see mocap suits required, but those suits are barely not weird to see. We're barely used to that being a performance, and now that's going away. How do you think, Jeff, that's going to impact the performers, your circuses, any circus has not having that on?
Not circuses, Andy circuses.
Yeah, Andy circuses, the plural.
I also think it'll affect the circus.
We could VR circuses around the corner.
Hey, I saw an incredible...
Scan a circus, save the elephants.
I saw an incrable Cirque du Soleil in virtual reality. It was amazing. It was all around you. Wow. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Can we okay, please, further. Following up, did they scan the individual performances as well as the space so you could look around at different acts happening simultaneously?
Well, it was a VR experience, so it was 360-degree 3D video.
Yeah.
So you could, there was actors and performers happening all around you, so you could, look around and see it in 3D, and they would come up and do, their crazy Cirque du Soleil stuff in your face. But I think that's just the tip of the iceberg. That was very much the dawn of VR, and we're seeing. I'm very bullish on VR and AR. I know a lot of folks have thought that that technology is niche, and it has been up to this point, but it is absolutely the future, in my opinion. I mean, here we are sitting on the set on Sony, and I'm so excited about Sony Playstation Vr2, which was just announced at CES. I really think that will, I hope, be starting the movement toward making this a much more mainstream technology and getting it onto the faces, I should say. I was going to say into the hands, but onto the faces.
Hands are irrelevant, man. I'm sorry.
Because it really, I mean, I'm such a fan of VR and AR. It really has to be experienced to be understood.
Right.
And I know you agree with this, right? You're nodding over there. I think it's the future. I think it's going to be the kind of thing that, again, my kids will expect to be inside an experience instead of just watching it through a tiny window.
It's really interesting to experience something in real time that's going to affect you for all time. And it's really interesting to see this announcement of this next wave of technology and know oh, that's just the thing that's now. That's just the way things will be going forward, and having to explain to people how that wasn't always the case. And it's fascinating, especially with this pandemic. So I don't know, how has technology allowed people to go physically places, especially during a pandemic, that they couldn't have before with this technology, starting with you?
I've seen some really cool, cute stuff, like the tablet robot. Have you seen those?
No.
They made a tablet, a robot with wheels, and then it's like a Zoom call. You can go see the tablet, through the tablet, and then you can control the robot and go to places.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, technology, I feel like, COVID's obviously incredibly, it's a crisis and things, but it's definitely kicked off this boom of new forms of really creative communication.
Yeah.
Whether it's the iPad robot or the Zoom calls that's just vastly everywhere, and I think that kind of led people to realize oh, digital communication is a real thing, and it's actually really accessible and a good way to communicate with people. Now, will this lead us down to a road of loneliness in the future? Who knows?
So there's two schools of thought. I think it's very connecting. So allowing people to go places they couldn't normally go, allowing people to connect in ways they couldn't normally connect. And like you mentioned, Zoom, how isolating would this pandemic have been 10 years earlier?
Well, I think you guys have hit on a very important point, which is Zoom still does feel isolating, but that is where technology is going to find a problem and solve it, because you're already seeing a lot of these concepts where using cameras that can capture you in 3D, you are kind of, and virtual reality and AR and all that stuff is going to allow us to have the experience of still being isolated, being in my own home and being able to talk to you if you're halfway across the world, but not feel like we're trapped in a Zoom.
A 2D representation.
Yeah, a little just
that always
square.
Feel...
That's the thing that I think feels so isolating, is that you have to stare at your camera and you have to feel like you're on all the time instead of just being natural like we are now.
Right.
And I think that's where technology, this kind of technology, volumetric capture, performance capture, AR and VR, that is what it's going to enable.
And since it's in real time, it feels like we're sitting right away, and it doesn't have that weird my face, your face, my face, your face. 2D.
And even better, we're going to be able to do what Youna does, which is decide how you see me.
Yeah.
I can be however I want to appear to you in any given moment. If I could be a giant unicorn if I want to.
That's pretty cool.
And I think that is going to change the fabric of how we interact as a culture.
And I'm really curious how it changes the fabric of how we interact with each other psychologically, how we perceive each other, how we greet each other, how we interact in the digital space. Because right now it is somewhat limited with Zoom that we all look like us. But with your experience, again, fart rockets, that is not something I experience very often. So it's a really interesting shift.
You do.
I mean, come on, let's be real. Chipotle is very common in Los Angeles. Now, Youna, how does this technology change what creators can make when it comes to restrictions like gravity or stunt hazards or physics itself?
You don't have to worry about any of that, right? You can just have your imagination go wherever it wants to go. I mean, I created a fart rocket, right? It's like,
think of all the stunt people she saved.
Right,
That's true.
Yeah, there's no limit. You can go super Adult Swim, ridiculous, and just... You can make everything surreal if you want to, and it's like animated films, right? You can have really cute, ridiculous things, or you can make it Tim Burton style, whatever you want, And I think that's really cool.
And I think that really allows someone's inside to be represented outside. I think that really allowed someone's imagination to really get to flourish, and you can show someone yourself in an all new way. And what do you think about these lack of restrictions in this new era?
Again, I think it's going to change the fabric of culture. I think there's going to be an entire generation of people that just expect to be viewed the way they see themselves rather than the way they happen to look in the quote-unquote real world. And you can debate whether that's a positive or negative, but I think it is an inevitability.
And how oops.
Oh, sorry.
No?
I think it'll actually cause people to be less shallow.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it would cause a real awakening of self. It
Yeah.
would really cause, like, you get to know someone, how they see them and how they feel they are.
Yeah.
And that's such a special, unique, and that's something else we couldn't explain to our great-grandparents. Like, oh no, look how you want. Go crazy, real time, it's fine. And then explaining real time to them. But how do you think that'll change the audience's perspective on storytelling and what's possible and imagination itself? Do you think we're gonna actually develop a different form of imagination once we realize there's less restrictions in things we can create?
I think people will accept creativity more and accept weird things more.
Yeah.
I think, you know, it's just like how we're kind of on this trend of like before, like 40 years ago, comic books or nerd culture wasn't cool.
Yeah.
And now it's super cool. It's super accepted. And I think we're in that trajectory where just more creativity and things won't be seen as weird and it will just be seen, oh, wow, that's really innovative. Oh, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I feel
That's
like
beautiful.
Yeah. I feel like weird is self-actualizing, and I think that's a
Yeah.
really special thing. And I think, like, my grandma knowing who Thanos is because the world got weird. And like you said, with comics getting mainstream, and like I said, Mitchell's versus the Machines, the more outlandish feels possible. So we're making more possible. It's just amazing. Jeff, how can in-person events integrate virtual productions to make things more accessible for all?
Well, we've seen already with the pandemic how the idea of being in a physical location with a lot of other people can be dangerous. Hopefully that changes and
Yeah.
we get back to some sort of normalcy there. But in the meantime, and even regardless of that, I think there's an opportunity to be able to be in a virtual space or view something from the best seats in the house. For years, when I first moved to Los Angeles, I worked in the box office of the Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted the same 5 seats, right? 17,000 seats, everyone wants the same 5, center,
Right.
center front, right? Why not be able to sell those same 5 seats 17,000 times because everybody can just sit and view the experience from the best seats in the house virtually? I mean, we've already experienced that. I enjoyed watching the Saturday Night Live, I think it's the 30th anniversary, what is it, 40th anniversary, whatever it was. They did a VR capture of that event, and it was an event where all the past hosts were in the audience. So you had like Jerry Seinfeld and all these old,
Yeah.
Tom Hanks, these huge stars in the audience watching the show, and then they placed a 3D 360-degree VR camera. So it felt like you're sitting in the audience and you could just look over and there's some of the biggest stars in the world, also completely unaware that you were watching them because they're watching the show. So it was an extraordinary experience feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm in this once-in-a-lifetime event. I would never have been able to buy a ticket and experience that, but I can in VR.
The true best seats in the house, once in a lifetime best seats in the house.
Yeah.
Now, from a journalistic standpoint, how do you see technologies impacting the economy, ecosystem, and that side of the future of the entertainment industry?
Well, you and I were talking about this in the green room, talking about how in the virtual space, there's going to be an entire new kind of economy, right? Because people are going to want to own things. We're seeing NFTs. Who knows how that's all going to play out? It's very early days there. But I think the idea of having ownership inside a virtual space is absolutely going to be a developing part of the economy in the next 5 to 10 years.
And I'm talking the economy and ecosystem, but you have mentioned many times the independent side, the grassroots side of these things. Do you think we'll see another shift in how mainstream independent creators become through things like TikTok and YouTube and Twitch and the things you work in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're already there, right? And I think, as you were saying, that I'm really excited for these creators to just kind of dive into the metaverse, so to say, and see what they can create while like basically living in a matrix type, right?
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see all this technology that's available to them, and I want to see how they utilize it.
And what would you say to people that are reluctant to take that leap? Is there what's your elevator pitch for like, no, this is the future, this is the correct way?
Oh man, well, elevator pitch for those that don't want to go into the matrix. Well, I mean, they don't want to take I guess they want to take the red pill. No, I mean, I would say that you can be whatever you want. You don't have to think about how you look, and you could have your own VR space. You can meet your friends. That's way across the world. But if you want to, still be outside and living in the real world, you can.
Jeff, same question. That's a really interesting pivot.
Yeah.
We all love this. We're already invested in it. What would you tell someone that wasn't necessarily on board?
Well, I think seeing is believing. I think when you experience, I mean, like I said, I've been an advocate for VR and AR tech for years now, and people are reluctant. People think it's odd or off-putting. Certainly, expense is an impediment. But I believe when you put on the headsets, when you experience the virtual world, and you see the possibility, and you see how the best experiences can really be so immersive, I think it will convince a lot of people that think it's not for them.
Got to sit them next to Seinfeld. All right.
Next to Seinfeld.
Now, I mentioned at the top we're going to be answering viewer questions from you folks, and we've got some YouTube questions. We're going to start off with one for Youna. They want to know, how long does it take for you to get into your motion capture suit and all of your equipment set up from the jump to finish?
Oh, wow. Well, I have it mostly set up, but I would say it still takes me around 20 minutes.
Oh, that is so much faster. The future is crazy. I was like waiting for like 3 hours like that, like 20 minutes.
No, 20 minutes. But if you have to do that every day.
If it wasn't set up in like an organized way, if you had to like from scratch, like what would the ground up be without your setup?
Oh gosh, at least a month.
That's the answer I was saying.
Yeah, because you have to get your character, you gotta rig your character, then you gotta put that connect your character to the motion capture stuff, and then you have to have your environment, and then your props, and then.
Okay, so physical dress, 20 minutes, entire experience, about a month.
The very bare bones of it, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah.
All right, and this is for Jeff. As an actor, do you think it's harder to act with VR or with real humans?
Depends on the real human, I guess. I think it's more difficult to act with VR, but I'm hoping that these kinds of technologies will remedy that. I mean, there's always some sort of ineffable human thing.
Yeah.
There's molecules disturbed. I love, there's a famous actor who once said, acting is disturbing molecules. And I believe that's the essence of it, right?
Yeah.
There's something that happens that we can't really describe. But hopefully, as these technologies improve and we convince ourselves that we are in a place that's not real with other people, that we'll get closer and closer to that.
So for now, people, but you already see, it might not be for long.
Right.
And this is for both of you from a YouTube question. If you could insert a plot twist into your life right now, what would it be and why? Because it's all possible.
Plot twist?
Plot twist right now.
We're all living in a simulation.
I don't know if that's a twist.
Yeah.
It might just be.
I mean, I feel like intense lottery win is sitting right in front of all of us.
Youna wants things to be like a weird glitch, and you're like, let's be rich.
That's just, I mean, I don't know. It's a twist on my life, I'll tell you.
That's fair. All right, so we've got a living in simulation. We've got a big lottery win. I'm all about that. We got one last question for both of you. So with virtual spaces being used not only in film, but as we talked about, a variety of different mediums, what do you think a new form of entertainment, a brand new concept might come out of this? I'm going to start with Youna.
I think the whole genre of real-time streaming allows for a real-time audience to affect you in a real-time way.
Yeah.
So things where, I think we're going to see a hodgepodge of film, games, live audiences, like all that jumbled into one little thing where you can also go inside of it too and look at it in, as like you're actually in the environment. I think we'll get a new medium that way. It's something that we haven't experienced before, where you can actually go inside the experience live and affect the performance of these actors, or as you were saying, be like the character themselves. And I think that's like a whole brand new medium.
So it would effectively allow you to be, as an audience member, if you chose an actor. Mm-hmm. So it's like sitting in that Shakespeare seat, yeah. And you actually would get to be like yelling out like dialogue and things. So it would allow almost like a choose your own Goosebumps adventure with entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
And
or you can like go on an adventure with your favorite game characters. Like if you had an RPG adventure story, how cool would it be if you can actually go along with them and affect, fight monsters with them and things like that,
And do you see that happening soon?
Yeah. I see that happening. You can make that right now. You can.
And Jeff, same question. What new form of entertainment?
I completely agree. I think it's interactivity. I think that's the future. I think that's what audiences yearn for, is to be more involved, be a bigger part of it. And we're already seeing Netflix experiment and stuff like that, where you have these kind of choose your own adventure films. But I think technologies like this, interactive technologies, VR, AR, placing you inside the experience instead of watching it through a tiny window.
Yeah.
I think that is going to be absolutely transformatory. I'm part of a company called Fan Controlled Football. That's literally live action, real elite athlete, professional football, but it's done like Madden, like the video game Madden, where you control it all. The fans literally call every play, pick all the players, draft, design the logos, design the jerseys. I mean, it's a real thing. It's happening right now. Season 2.0 starts in a couple of months. And that, I think, is just the tip of the iceberg of where we are going as a culture, where people want to be active instead of passive.
Now, in that same vein, we've talked a bit about mocap and gear and things that can put you in that space. What would you recommend people do if they're interested in worlds like this, interested in building their own adventure RPG stories and getting into this football that's happening in real time? Where would you suggest they start looking?
I mean, for me, since I'm a VTuber, and if anybody wants to become a virtual avatar, I would say go and do some VR. Go into VR chat, find your avatar. And from there, honestly, there's so much availability of tech. If you want to be an anime girl, you can use 2D Live. If you want to do a more higher end, mocapped character, you can use Perception Neuron. There's a lot of suits that are actually available now. And Unreal Engine, I think Unreal Engine is really heading to that direction of doing a lot of virtual production and has a lot of support in that area. So and it's also really easy to learn as well. So I would say I would recommend those things.
Great. Jeff?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I don't know if I can top that. I think what we're talking about fundamentally is creativity. And so anything that nurtures your creativity, any way to have an outlet creatively, I think fosters more creativity.
Yeah.
So write, make music, make internet videos, whatever method speaks to you, I think will foster that creativity and allow you to flourish.
Self-actualize your weird. That is the theme I got out of today.
Yeah, sit next to Jerry.
Sit next to Jerry, self-actualize your weird, make your art. And I do love what you both said about the world getting more accepting of all of these choices by way of us getting to be our inward selves outward with this technology. And I think that's what technology is for, is making us all better. That is the goal of human beings, to be better through technology, and we're getting there. So that is all the time in this realm we have for today's session. It is so exciting to hear how technology, creativity, and curiosity are continuing to shape the future of entertainment, to be more inclusive, more accessible, and to become a more powerful tool for storytelling. Please make sure to join us tomorrow when we resume our deep dive into the convergence of virtual and physical entertainment in the digital space, with a session focusing on new technologies in sound. Now, thank you so much to today's panelists, Youna the technician and Jeff Cannata. Youna, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at the CodeMiko or twitch.tv/CodeMiko.
And Jeff on the internet?
I'm at Jeff Cannata, which is spelled with 2 N's and 1 T, and the show that I talked to, I have a bunch of shows, but the show that I talked about, The Dungeon Run, you can find at thedungeonrun.tv.
I'm so fascinated in advance. I'm Coy Jandreau at Coy Jandreau, and I will see you again tomorrow for the next session of Unlock with Sony CES 2022 edition. Have a great night.